Good afternoon. I'm here with Chris Bones, who is the Group Chair of the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives. Chris, thank you very much for talking to Regulation Matters. So you recently appointed as the Group Board Chair, January this year, and you've worked across a number of commercial bodies, Cadbury Schweppes, Diageo, Henley Business School, to name a few. What really interested you in joining CILEx?
Thank you for having me. I think CILEx is a fascinating organisation in a profession that one might describe as still operating at times on a 19th or 20th century model. It's an organisation that's trying to change not just the face of the law for the public, but also the face of accessible law and the routes into law. And you just have to look at our makeup, which is predominantly female, which has a higher than the population percentage of black and other ethnic minority groups in our membership. And you're looking at a legal profession that looks radically different from the stereotype. That fascinated me. It's got to be the right way to go. And it struck me as something that was standing up for access to profession, social mobility and change, which appeals to me.
Okay, and thinking about then you being at the apex, if you like, of that group, there's a professional body there, Chartered Institute, approved regulator, me from an independent regulatory body, a law school. What do you see are the challenges and opportunities of spearheading the top of that group?
In the context of this conversation, clearly keeping independence and regulation is really important. If you think about public trust in the profession, and particularly public trust in legal executives and what they might be doing to help individuals address wrongs, settle important domestic affairs such as wills or whatever it happens to be, move house. It's really important that the public believe that if they're going to be supported by a chartered legal executive, that person is entirely fit, proper, and they have some form of redress, which is independent of the profession itself. So I think regulation is critically important to the Chartered Institute, and it's very important that that is as arm's length as it can be within the constraints of the current legislation. I think it is also very good for a membership organisation to know it's worth joining, because as a member you're not just properly educated and supporting your professional development throughout your career, but also your reputation is enhanced by being properly and independently regulated. So whilst I think there are inherent tensions, inevitably in managing the competing interests at times of different parts of the group, the whole is a very powerful proposition, both for the public interest but also for the professional individual. And if we are anything, we are a membership organisation. And we're a membership organisation that is there to do good and to do the right thing and to change the face of the law over time. And we have to sort of think our way through those things and those priorities, how we allocate resources.
So thinking to the future then, where do you see the future? You said we're at the early stages really of that group strategic thinking, but what's your vision? Where do you see the future for the CILEx group?
Well, you and I are about to start this conversation off after this interview. I don't want to pre-guess where we come out, but I think the group needs a strategy. And what do I mean by that? We need to be very clear what our purpose is, and that has to recognise what the challenges are socially and legally in the 21st century, and we need to define that in a way that makes our role clear and distinctive from those of, say, barristers or solicitors or anybody else in associated professions in law. The second thing we've got to be very clear about is what is our vision for that purpose over the next 5 to 10 years. So what's the future going to look like? And that is probably what is going to make us attractive to future legal professionals. After all, we have rights right up to representation. We are able to perform to the highest levels in the land legally. as a part of the legal profession. And we have to have a sense of what that's going to look like and what that's going to mean for not just current members but future members. And we need to adopt both a method of education and a content of education that keeps us relevant and future-facing as the profession evolves and technology evolves. So I think those things are really important. I think within that we also have to think about the direction of travel and regulation across professions as a whole, as well as in the legal profession. And whilst there are constraints set by legislation, there are also principles to be established, and if we welcome independent regulation, we have to think in that strategy about what that really means and how we're going to execute that. If I had ambitions for what came out of the strategic process for the next few months, I think they would be around changing the face of law. They would be around breaking up sort of cosy cartel that's existed for the last couple of 100 years. They would be about disruption. They would be about transformation. And I think we need to think in that sort of very stretching and exciting way about what we're here to do. Because simply put, the biggest threat to it strategically is earn while you learn is no longer a unique proposition. So we have to be more than that. It still sits at our heart, but we have to be more than that. And that's potentially what's exciting. I think it's probably quite challenging for all of us because we're probably going to have to think about doing some things quite differently. And I think our job as a board is, we're not there to set the strategy, we're there to make sure that the strategy operates in the best public interest and membership interest. That's our job. But it's to encourage yourself, the leaders of the other parts of the group, to be as aspirational as is sensible and prudent, and to go back perhaps to the original reasons why we were established, and to think, so how might we reconnect with that in the 21st century.
Okay, that's really insightful. Thank you very much for talking to me.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.